Hello everyone, my name is Crypto Kiwi, and today I'm going to be showing you guys a short, or kind of a part of an interview that I was watching on YouTube recently. This is a very good interview. I'm going to give you guys the full link in the description below. It's about the future of technology and how Bitcoin could really change the future when it comes to money. So I'm just going to play a little bit from here. Remember guys, I am going to put the full link in the description for this interview if you want to watch. Apart from that, I'm going to be pausing it a bit and talking a bit about it, but why not give it a shot? We'll see how this goes.
The last wealth transfer of this magnitude was around 1850, and it was about those who found oil. There's a huge wealth transfer going on right now, where those who used to be poor, nerdy, geeky, sitting in their mom's basement, if you like, are suddenly the new millionaires. And that, perhaps more than anything, is going to have a profound effect on what the future of our society looks like. Because for the last 200 or so years, it was the people who found oil that decided where money went, what research was made. And when the geeks and nerds are sitting on that money and deciding what research gets made, it's not going to be a better diesel engine. It's going to be a better solar panel, it's going to be teleportation, it's going to be space travel. I think that's going to be one of the more profound changes happening here. A wealth transfer to an entirely new type of people.
So can everyone jump on this bandwagon, or is it?
So basically what he's saying is that in the past it's been people that have found oil that have made the big money in this world, and the people with the big money, they're always the ones to dictate where that money goes into, if it's researching a new kind of engine, a new car, a company, or anything like that. This is kind of what he's saying. You look at countries like Dubai, cities like that and all that, and Abu Dhabi and Doha and all the really wealthy countries that make their money from oil and stuff. You know, there are people over there that are just millionaires everywhere, and it's always the people that have made a lot of money in the past, things that have taken off and been worth so much, such as oil, that have had decisions of where that money is spent. And so what he's saying is it's always, and now we're kind of going into a new era where it's the geeks and the nerdy people that got in early in such things as Bitcoins that could be the future massive money people. So, I mean, what do you think people, like a geek, say if a geek made $100 million or whatever, a lot of people made a lot of money on crypto, what do you think that they want to see of the future? Do they want like some kind of new diesel engine, like he said, something that's mechanical or whatever? Or do they want to go into the next type of thing, like space travel? All sorts of things in technology, new kind of things like blockchain is a whole new technology. Well, not new, but it's a whole new technology to the world. And like it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for nerds and the geeky people, as he said. And if these are the people that are going to have the money and the power to push forward of the future, what could we see next? This is what he's kind of saying. It makes a lot of sense, and it's quite an interesting interview. I'm just going to carry it on from here.
Is it too late?
Well, it comes and goes. I mean, if I can't give financial advice, but if cryptocurrency fulfills its promise, and there is no indication it wouldn't, then the equivalent of one Bitcoin needs to be in the $2 to $5 million range. But at that point, it doesn't make sense to measure it in US dollars anymore, because the US dollar won't have any measurable value. So it is absolutely not too late, just like it wasn't too late when Bitcoin was at $3 or at $30 or at $300 or at $3,000. But this is a very high volatile instrument. This is a really risky investment. And if you're asking me whether somebody should invest, then the answer is nobody should ever invest more than being capable of losing every single last cent of it.
Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein says Bitcoin may be another bubble, just like that of the dot-coms. And JP Morgan's Chase CEO Jamie Dimon compares cryptocurrency to the Dutch 17th century tulip mania. Don't these men have a point? I mean, a bubble forms when there's public ignorance, and with Bitcoin, most people have a vague idea of what it is and how it works.
I think you absolutely have a point that most people don't really understand what Bitcoin is. It is peer-to-peer electronic money. That means I have a phone here. I can use that phone to transfer money to a nearby phone or to a phone on the other side of the planet. The transfer is instant, it is practically free, nobody gets to decide whether I can make that transaction or not, including financial authorities. And that in itself will mean a financial revolution. This is an extinction level event for banks. Banks will no longer be a necessary middleman. And that's, more than anything, why I believe that this is the future of finance.
Rick, anonymity makes Bitcoin obviously very popular, but it also enables crime.
So that's something I've always thought about too, is there are people in the banking world that have come out and said, oh, Bitcoin's not a real thing, it's just a bubble, it's going to burst and it's going to ruin so many people's lives or whatever. Like this man said, it is a risk and it can happen, of course, but then again, you have to look at it from a different point of view, that this is one of the first biggest threats when it comes to the banking industry. This is the first time in history, like this man has said, that something so big has threatened the banking industry. So I mean, if you were at the top of your game in that industry, in the banking industry, and there was something that was threatening that, only with time that we'll find out if it does threaten that. I mean, it's a whole new currency and a way of money that we don't actually need banks or governments in the middleman. They don't have to be there. We don't even need them for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. So it's kind of like, are they downing it mainly because of that, or are they, there are reasons why a lot of bankers and people will go against it, because simply it's a big threat to the banking industry, and the banking industry is where a lot of money lies, guys. So much money into the banking industry, and this is the first time that a whole financial system has threatened the banking industry so big that people are almost starting to fear it. Eventually, like you said, it's only time will tell. Eventually, it could eliminate the need of banks. So that's a bit of a scary thought for some people. For some people, that makes them very happy. But for the majority of people, they're obviously a bit iffy about it. We'll just continue the interview.
Just remember the notorious WannaCry ransomware attack this May. This can potentially make governments restrict Bitcoin trade substantially, and that would cause a drastic slump in its value. Do you think cryptocurrency can partially sacrifice its anonymity to ward off shady users?
It is more traceable than any money that came before it, because every single unit of Bitcoin is traceable through its entire monetary history, through anonymous accounts. But once you de-anonymize one account, you can start unraveling where the transactions go. The second part of that question, which is more interesting, is that Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer currency. A peer-to-peer technology means that there's no middleman. Governments have been trying to stop peer-to-peer technologies since Napster, and they have been as completely unsuccessful as anybody could possibly be in that. So I don't see them being able to stop peer-to-peer currency either. Which leads me to the last observation, that since there is no middleman, there is nobody giving permission. When I'm buying a bottle of water with a credit card, somewhere in the background is a bank giving me permission to buy a bottle of water with a credit card. And that is a horrifying thought, because that means that the bank can also deny me permission to buy a bottle of water. Nobody thinks of this, but it's there. With Bitcoin, this is not true. There is nobody needing to give permission in the background. There is nobody who gets to say no to a transaction. No money can be forced. No money can be seized. And here's the big problem for governments in the future. Taxes can no longer be forced.
I get all the 3 points that you've
Yeah, like you said, taxes can't be forced if you can't control it and there's no middleman. So that's one of the scariest things about Bitcoin in a way, is that it is a real threat to governments overall once it gets big enough and there's enough people using it globally. I mean, governments, they're either going to try to crack down on it, or they're going to have to somehow jump on board and do something, because if a government doesn't make money, then where's the control in the country? If everyone's using Bitcoin and the government's not actually getting their cut of everything that's going on, it's really gonna change the financial system, guys. It's a scary thing to think about. Now, if you think about it, if it actually gets so big that cryptocurrencies do take over normal regulated like national currencies that governments regulate and look after, like where could we be going? Could we be going towards an international worldwide currency? And then even then, how will governments operate when everyone is sending money to each other and buying and selling through a currency that they have no control over or they have no cut. So it's a crazy thing to think about. And somewhere during this interview, I think it's coming up, the interviewer does talk about how Bitcoin is used by scammers and hackers online, and how people steal so much money with Bitcoin, and it's used on the dark net for drug deals and buying weapons and all sorts of stuff like that. But then the man here in the corner that is being interviewed also says, if you look at it in a way, the US dollar has also been used and is used every single day, probably every single minute. Right now, someone's probably buying illegal drugs and items using the US dollar. The US dollar is probably the most used currency to buy illegal contraband on earth. I mean, come on, you look at people like Pablo Escobar back in history. Everything was done in US dollars. The guy was just laundering and just making billions of US dollars by selling cocaine and creating it and manufacturing it. Even then, it's like people don't. This is the thing that bugs me a lot, is people just instantly call it a scam because it's used by hackers, dodgy people and stuff. But that's mainly because it's obviously a little bit harder to track and there's no regulation. But then again, you can look at that at any currency, especially the US dollar. It's used for so many illegal things. But then again, you don't even double guess it. You don't even question it. You know, that's what I mean. And everything is almost in a bubble in a way when you look at it. Anything that's going big real quick and has so many people involved, it normally does pop and everything crashes. You just look at the financial crashes of the world. We had like 1984, I think it was, and 2008, just financial crashes of the world. It's just how money works, and it's frustrating that people just glance at Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. This is just the general public, and they instantly put it down because of what they've seen just through mainstream media. All they've seen is, oh, you know, hackers are hacking computers worldwide and it's ransomware or whatever, and they're getting paid in Bitcoin. The minute that they say that, people instantly think Bitcoin's a scam, Bitcoin's used by hackers, it's not good, we shouldn't use it. But like I said, if you look at it in any way, any currency is used for illegal purposes and activities. It happens daily, it happens all the time. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin is bad if every other currency is also being used. You can't control it. People use money for whatever they damn well like. I'm just going to continue some more of the interview, but guys, I'm not gonna play the whole interview in this video. If you do want to check it out, I'll leave the link in the description. I just watched this one night, and I really agreed with the guy that has been interviewed. A lot of the stuff he actually made sense, and it kind of got me thinking a lot about the future. If cryptocurrencies do take over regular currencies that governments regulate and are in control of, it could be a hectic world with how things operate, especially with finance, because money controls everything. Money makes the world spin, and if we are looking at the future and cryptocurrencies could completely change how it all works, it could just be completely crazy. Like, I think it will work out in the long run, but we're going to see some crazy changes over our time. Anyway, I'll carry on some more of the interview.
Said, like before, you said it's traceable. With WannaCry, we know where the ransom money is going, but the accounts themselves are anonymous. But if we know that there is an account with ransom money extorted from ordinary users in it, shouldn't we have the ability to freeze an account and take it back?
No. Why should you?
I mean, doesn't it bother you that here you are working on a new invention, a beautiful, convenient currency, and people use it to pay for child pornography or to order a hit on someone?
Actually, they use the US dollar for that. And yet I never heard somebody arguing against the existence of the US dollar with that argument. If you're going after drugs and narcotics trade, then the US dollar is unparalleled in use. And I never heard that being used as an argument against the US dollar.
Will the complete implementation of cryptocurrency make compulsory taxation impossible? What happens to real-life governments then? Like, will Bitcoin make them obsolete?
Isn't that interesting?
Oh, is that what you're hoping for?
Isn't that interesting? I can't predict that. The changes we're about to see are so profound. When you can no longer just go in and take somebody's money, but the worst you can do as a government is to make them sorry. Force it. You cannot seize it. The changes this is going to bring are so profound to society that we're going to see a lot of governments panicking when they realize they can no longer just seize whatever money they want.
We'll take a short break right now, and when we're back, we'll continue discussing what's behind the meteoric rise of Bitcoin with Rick Falkvinge, founder of the Swedish Pirate Party and cryptocurrency evangelist.
All right, I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Basically, I just want to show you guys some of this interview. I found it a very interesting interview. Like this man said, he can't predict anything with Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. Like, he can make predictions, of course, but you can't accurately predict anything. We could be seeing massive changes in the financial world and how money operates. With the rate that it's growing, it only takes time for more of the general public and the masses to start using it. As soon as that happens, guys, cryptocurrencies are going to completely explode. It's already starting to happen with Bitcoin. You saw when it hit 10,000, people kind of freaked. A lot of people thought its value is going to drop. A lot of people are going to cash out, but it did the opposite. Because it hit $10,000, it was blasted all throughout news, and a lot of people heard about it hitting 10,000, and that's when a lot of people just got interested. And now we're just seeing the hype train go up, and now we're sitting at $17,000 to $18,000 as of today. So, like I said, guys, this interview is very, very interesting. I really liked it myself. It kind of questions how the world is going and how it could possibly change how the world works, just simply because of cryptocurrencies and pretty much the power of peer-to-peer technology. So blockchains can be used for all sorts of things, not just money and currency, and that's something I'm super excited about too, is seeing that the blockchain technology being used for all sorts of things in future. I've even seen an electricity company, I think this is in the USA, an electricity company that uses blockchain technology, and somehow they guarantee between 30 to 40% cut back on how much electricity how much your electricity is going to cost per month. They can almost guarantee that you're going to be saving up to 30 to 40% because of whatever they're doing. They're using some kind of blockchain technology, and somewhere within the electricity industry, they are cutting out a middleman somewhere, and that's saving a lot of money. So you got to think of it in two different aspects too. If you're doing this with blockchain, so with the electricity type service, if you think about it, if they can use blockchain technology to offer you electricity, and they're promising to cut back on your electricity costs, but it is also cutting out a middleman somewhere within that industry, that's obviously going to affect people that work in the electricity work as well. If you're going to be cutting out a middleman, that people are going to end up losing their jobs when this takes off. If it does, people will be losing their jobs simply because the new technology just doesn't require them to be there. But at the same time, it will be cutting back the cost of people's electricity, and that's when it comes to up to the people. Do they want to save money on how much they're paying for electricity, or do they care more about a certain percent of people within that industry staying at work and keeping in with their job? And that's when the consumer gets to decide what they want, guys. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see what happens with blockchain technology. I can see it happening and being used in so many different aspects of how we currently do things, and it's only a matter of time before we start seeing these things happen. So it's already happening with currencies. That's why we've got cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. They will run on a peer-to-peer technology known as the blockchain. Personally, I think this interview was very, very good. I've only shown you guys a little bit. The link is in the description if you want to watch it. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.